All right. Hello, hello, hello. Is the audio on? Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome everyone to Springfield Tech Council's July Learning Over Lunch event. I am so glad you're all here. Who's here for the first time? One of our events. Holy cow. That is awesome. Thank you all for coming out. I see you. Try and meet everybody. That's kind of what we're here for. Building community, getting people together. We love it. If you are new here, I know it's a large contingent of O'Reilly, and we're happy you're here. We'll sing the song later. Just to let you know, there are half-price individual memberships going for the rest of the year, and we'll prorate those corporate memberships too. It's a great time to get involved, talk to us. Let's get you involved at whatever level you want. As we look toward next year, even a lot of the companies represented here today, they set up booths at Square. They come to EIT with tables. Let's get into conversation how we can turn that into a year-long sponsorship for you guys, because this organization doesn't exist without those year-long sponsorships, and that's what helps us grow, helps us put on these events, helps us bring you better food like we did today. Guys, did you enjoy the food? Yeah, so first of all, thank you to O'Reilly. They paid for it. But the food's brought to you today by a relatively newcomer to the food truck scene. That is Ed and Karen in the back there. They represent the Giotto Eatery Food Truck and Catering. Their stuff is amazing. They are on the brewery circuit a little bit. They will be at Mile 6 tonight. Republic Pool tomorrow. Yes, Republic Pool tomorrow. And the airport for lunch tomorrow, too. So that's right out by where I work. Kelly, we can eat them for lunch tomorrow. So some of their cards are over there. You all do lunches like this at work and all that. Grab a card, have them cater it. They have all kinds of great, amazing food. So give them a shout. And, of course, thank you to our year-long sponsors. We have, where's Pitt Tech? Anyone here from Pitt today? Yeah, there he is. C&H Reman, my company, with Kelly and I representing as a cornerstone sponsors. SRC, I didn't see anybody I recognize from SRC. Jack Henry. I know we have a couple Jack. Yep, there we are in the back. I'll skip that one for a moment. Tavora is a year-long sponsor. We'll have another event on the books with them soon in that cybersecurity community series. ESCO Processing and Recycling, represented by Wendy Bass back there for your recycling needs. Get a hold of Wendy. And we got this little event coming at the end of September. Has anyone been to the Excellence in Tech Awards yet? Yeah, Jen's been there. It is a good time. If you haven't been there yet, are tickets on sale yet? Yeah, tickets are on sale. Right now, nominations are open for awards. There's 16 categories out there this year. If you have people that work with you and work for you, they deserve recognition, and that's what this event is for. Nominate them for awards. It's open for a couple more weeks, till the 21st. Then we have a submission process. They'll have another week or two to get a hold of that before we start narrowing that list down to finalists. And the event, of course, is at Bass Bros White River Convention Center here, September 26th, that last Friday in September. You guys ready for that? Whew, it's a big one. It'll be a good time. So with that, I want to introduce our events chair, Kelly Robertson. She's going to tell you about the other things that are coming up this year.
Thank you. Yes, because it's too much for me to remember. All right, as Dan said, I'm Kelly I'm on the board as well as the events chair. So if you're interested in helping on that event or any other, or that committee or any other committee, just holler and we'll get you hooked up with the right one. So some upcoming events, July 16th, Springfield Creatives, free backyard event at Mother's Brewing from 5:30 to 7:30. July 17th, Women in Tech Connect. It's a family edition at Nathaniel Green Park from 5:30 to 8:30. There'll be food there as well. August 6th. Whoops, we don't want to go backwards. August 6th, Springfield Devs is hosting their monthly Dev Night. This group is for anyone with a fondness for software development, and they cover any and all things dev, not just one topic. So I encourage you, if you don't participate there, it's an active group. Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. open Springfield weekly code night, where volunteer group of designers and developers tackling technical problems of the community. So if you have free time, this is a worthy cause as well. The STC next event is August 14th. It will be sponsored by PIC Technology Group. It is going to be an AI event, and we're working towards a workshop. We don't have that finalized yet, but we are working on it, so be looking for information on that. If for some reason that falls through, we will have a learning over lunch. Again, watch for more Springfield Tech Events Cyber Series from Tavora coming up, monthly events, happy hours, etc. And lastly, Excellence in Tech Award, as Dan just said, September 26th. Deadline to nominate more than 15 award categories is the 21st of July. And so we encourage you to promote your employees and your coworkers. It's a lot of fun. So with that, I would like to introduce Ben Hyder with O'Reilly. He is the Senior Product Manager, and he is going to give a great presentation. Thank you.
I'm gonna give an okay presentation. I've been thinking about how I want to start this off, and I think I'm going to start it off with a little bit of an introduction to why O'Reilly's here, and some thank yous to a few key people. So I think there's a lot of O'Reilly folk in the crowd, but I think for the rest of you, we're newcomers to STC, and it's been a very long time since we were really involved in the Springfield community at a technology level. About, keep me honest, almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, we got a new CIO. His name is Scott Ross. He has a rich background in the retail technology space, has come into our company, very welcome, and has just begun to transform our IT space and our larger, more broader company in just myriad ways. One of those ways is it's now our mission to be involved in the community and to participate in things like this and all the other wonderful activities that STC throws. Another one is we're kicking off a pretty radical modernization program across our IT landscape where we are rebuilding core components of our business. We are investing heavily in products and transformation and organizational change. So I'm going to revisit this a little bit as we go through the conversation because it's going to kind of make sense a little bit more as we talk. Also want to thank Vasant over here. So he's been around a little over a year. He's our new VP of the digital space, which is where I belong. So at O'Reilly, we're not a software company, right? You guys know what we do, right? Does everybody know what we do, what we sell? We sell auto parts. And along the same lines, for a long time, we've been an auto parts company, and there's an IT division kind of down the street, and they keep websites on and keep technologies going. With Vasant's leadership, there's now focus on our digital platforms. There's also been bigger organizational changes that he's championed for things like product management, which is something kind of a software terminology that we're kind of accepting. And then finally, Dwayne Keys, who I'm going to set up. Dwayne's my boss. He's a director of product management now. And wouldn't be here, wouldn't have these successes without all those people and so many more that we'll dote upon as we go through the presentation. Click. So I'm Ben. I was introduced earlier. I'm now Senior Manager of Digital Product Manager. And with me here is Andrew Reeves. Andrew's not in the IT space technically. So along that theme of we're not a software company, right? We have a whole business unit, a whole company full of people that are investing and strategizing about professional sales and in-store experiences and marketing and logistics and all the things you can imagine that goes into a company with 6,000 plus stores in 3 different countries, you know. But Andrew and his team, really, and the professional sales group, they're our stakeholders, right? They're who we work with very closely to bring to market technologies. So we're going to be kind of sharing in this presentation to give a sense, not just of the technology that goes into doing something, but also the business relationships and the business side of that equation. Andrew, you want to say hi?
Hello.
Yeah. I'm not going to worry too much about this. So at O'Reilly Auto Parts, we have a custom, and we want to kind of share that with everybody here. So we're a piece of our secret sauce is culture, right? And we're really proud of it, super duper proud of it. And to the point that whenever we have big meetings, big conversations, we like to start off the conversation with what we call a culture talk. Usually pretty brief, but it's just targeted to kind of get everybody on the same page and kind of embrace the O'Reilly culture. So I've asked my boss, Dwayne Keys, to do a culture talk for us today.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, this will be really brief. Ben hit a lot of the points that I was going to hit. I think he read my notes. But in all seriousness, no, we do start off with a culture talk, and that is one of the things that we feel like separates us from our competition. Other parts stores have parts, they've got prices, good inventories. So what makes O'Reilly different is how we go about doing business and how we interact with each other. I recently celebrated 25 years with the company. And it's never been more. Thank you. It's never been more exciting than right now. The stuff that Ben's talking about, the stuff that Basant and Scott are championing, it's a ton of fun. So what they're about to show you is a product of that culture. If I have to name one of our culture values, which there are 12, one for every month. Teamwork. Yeah, actually, some of those aren't. I don't know what those are. It's a weird word cloud. But anyway, teamwork is the one that I would try to emphasize for you guys, and Ben and his team, and Andrew and his team, and many others that acted in supporting roles really made this happen. Super proud of the work that has gone into this, and just happy to be here and listen to Ben and Andrew.
Thank you very much, Dwayne.
Yep. All right. Cool. All right. Well, hello everyone. So I would just kind of say real quick to kind of back up what Dwayne was saying there is, culture was really a big thing for us as we were moving into this project, right? Like O'Reilly's not always been, at the forefront of technology, and I think we're really changing that. But along the way, when we're at the foundation of really trying to build an application, I'm just going to use this as an example, but it really is all throughout. We get together, right, and we have this vision of things that we want, and business comes in, and IT comes in, and we all have different visions, and that's healthy, right? We all need to kind of have a say in this and what we want, and that's really where culture comes into play, because we go into these meetings, right, and we all have ideas, and we're not going to agree on things, and that's okay. But I think culture really grounds us with that, right? We can come in and we look at this, and those culture talks help us get to that foundation of teamwork, of honesty and respect of one another, and that really, I think, helps ground us and helps lift us to the ultimate goal, which again in this case was building an application. I truly believe that, and I know Dwayne and Ben and everybody else know that was a key part of the success of this application. So. I wanted to just kind of start this off, and what I'm going to do here is I kind of have a big vision here, right? And each one of these slides, we're going to kind of start to narrow it down, and I'm going to funnel into kind of one piece to this, but I want everybody to kind of get the whole picture, and as we get closer into this, it'll lead into our application. that we got into here. But the first thing I just want to say, I don't know how many of you know this. I actually, it's quite surprising to me as I talk to friends and family, but the first O'Reilly location actually opened up here in Springfield, Missouri back in 1957. Anybody in here not know that? I know there's a lot of O'Reilly people, but yeah, couple. Yeah, so all of us kind of local people, we're really pretty proud of that, right? You grew up here, and then we're working for a company that started here and has expanded to over 6,000 stores, and it's just something that we really kind of hone in on, and we're super passionate about, and getting involved with the community is a big thing for us as a company, so we do that. And it all started right here. Actually, it was on 403 Sherman Avenue, which is literally just a stone's throw somewhere around here. Kind of by OTC is where the first store was. It's not there any longer, but yeah, it was just opened up right up the road. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about how that happened. So Charles O'Reilly and his family actually migrated over here from Ireland. It's the Shamrock and O'Reilly name, right? But they migrated over, actually landed in St. Louis, and Charles got working with a auto parts supplier. Actually traveled to Springfield from St. Louis via train because it was part of his territory to sell auto parts. And when he came down here, he saw a lot of opportunity, kind of fell in love with the area, and actually requested to be transferred here. So moved his family to Springfield, and then started running a shop here, selling auto parts. And then his son, Chubb, started working for that same auto parts supplier, and along the way they were doing this restructure, and they wanted to have Charles retire and move Chubb to Kansas City, and they said no, we're not doing that, and they wanted to stay here in Springfield, and so thus the first O'Reilly was born from here. So they opened up their own, and that opened up with 13 employees. I thought this was really cool. I'm a sales guy, so their first year totaled $700,000 in sales. So kind of, back then was quite a bit of money, and they really hit the ground running. I think kind of shows what our foundation was, and what they knew what they were doing right in this business. So. Along the way, obviously, this has been a while since 1957, but, a lot of our growth, we really do it a couple ways, right? We do acquisitions, so we will go and find other auto parts suppliers that are for sale. If they meet our culture value, we'll talk with them and bring them on and buy that out. And so along the way, we've done a handful. I'm not going to go through all of them, but some big ones for us were high, low, and mid-state. High-low and CSK, those were our two big ones, and those really helped us become kind of a nationwide company. CSK actually doubled when we purchased them. We doubled in size with that, so that was a really big acquisition for us. And so today we're at 6,400 stores across 48 states. We're in Puerto Rico, we're in Mexico, and in Canada, and I'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide here. And our plan this year so far is to open 200 new stores as well with that. So that's pretty typical for us. It'll change every year, and that number can kind of fluctuate throughout the year, but that's kind of our general plan and how we started. So I just want to quickly touch on international, because this was really big for us. So in 2019, we acquired Mayasa Auto, which is based out of Mexico. And then in 2024, we acquired Bass Auto, which is a Montreal-based group. So we are now both north and south of the border. That's really big for us. I'm sure everybody can imagine that's quite the undertaking, right, when you go international. And there's just lots of challenges with that, but there's a lot of opportunity for us and a lot of things that we're really excited about as we move into kind of this chapter for us here. So as Ben said, I'm from sales, so I have to go, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. Again, looking at the bigger picture here, we're going to narrow it down a little bit, and then we're going to continue to kind of tunnel in on what we're focused on as a team here. But in 2024, we sold $16.71 billion throughout our company. $8 billion of that was done in professional sales. Now, this is really where we're going to kind of narrow down. So we have a dual market strategy at O'Reilly. What that means is 50% of our sales go out the front door, 50% of our sales go out the back door. And you're probably wondering what that is, and I'm going to do my best to explain this. I'm going to give you a couple examples, and hopefully you can pick up on one. Maybe you'll pick up on all of them. So one way we call it is front door sales and back door sales, right? So a front door sale would be somebody like you or I, right? We're going to drive to O'Reilly. We're going to pull in the parking lot. We're going to walk through the front door. We're going to buy wiper blades, light bulbs, you know, detailing supplies. Maybe we're going to go up to the front counter and say, hey, I need to change the brakes in my 2019 Silverado. You get the parts, and then you walk out the front door with those parts, and you go home and you work on them yourself, right? That's what another term for that would be retail, or a do-it-yourself, a DIY job. So there's really kind of three terms that you can look at that. So retail, DIY, or front door sale. So the other 50% comes from backdoor sales, and that's really where we, me, Ben, Dwayne, all of us kind of focus on a lot of times are those professional sales, right? So the best way to explain a professional sale is think of a good example would be like Rick's Automotive, right? Rick is a professional shop. So we would go to Rick's if we needed new brakes or we needed our oil change, and we didn't want to do it ourselves. So we go to the professional group. We pay them. They fix the vehicles for us. We would sell those parts to Rick's Automotive so that they can service you. That's what we would consider a professional sale, or a do-it-for-me, or a backdoor sale. So how that typically would work, and we'll dive into this a little bit more. But those sales can happen multiple ways. They'll pick up the phone, they'll use our, our internal systems to place an order. Our team will put that in one of those white delivery trucks that you see driving around town. It'll go out the back door, and then they'll take it over to the shop and get it fixed, right? So that's kind of hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a little confusing, but that's really our focus is front and back door sales, and you can kind of splice that up however you want. And so, like we stated, I'm on the professional side. So we have people solely that will focus on the retail or the front door, and then our team focuses on that back door. So I'm really going to hone in on those types of customers that we have. So a professional sales or a do-it-for-me or a backdoor sale, they're very specialized, right? So pros, they're trained, they're certified. Sometimes they specialize in very specific vehicles. So like Tesla's a very good example there, right? You have to be certified to work on Tesla. You have to meet all these certain requirements, and that's more than likely what you're going to focus on. That can also be the same for, you see many shops who focus on like lift kits for trucks, or you don't see it as often, but sometimes, one shop will just do brakes only. But a lot of these have evolved over time, and they're really one-stop shops. But, they diagnose our issues, they fix them right the first time. That's why we go to them, right? Unlike most of our garages or our casual setups, they invest in a lot of tools and new age technology. So they'll buy new lifts. They'll be one of the first ones to want to use our application because it helps them, right? So they're always seeking ways to make themselves better so that they can provide better customer service. And the last part that I want to talk about here is time is money for them. And that's probably the most important piece here that I can say about a professional is they have to run their shops on a very tight schedule, right? Your expectation as a customer, you take your car to a shop, they say we're going to have that done in an hour. That's your expectation, right? If they call you 3 hours later and you don't have a vehicle, you're probably going to be upset and you're not going to want to go back, right? Also, on top of that, every minute that your vehicle's in that shop or in that garage, they're losing money. Right? So it's very important, and this is where O'Reilly comes in. We have to help them run their business as best as we can, and we have a big part of that, right? So one example that I always like to use and talk with people on is when we think of fast delivery, we think of Amazon, right? Or Walmart Plus is a good one. Amazon, we make a purchase, we expect that package at our door at least in 2 days, right? It seems like they're going to like 4 days now, but that's usually our expectation. Is I place that order, I want that in 2 days. Or Walmart, they're really good, right? If you use Walmart Plus, you make an order at 8 o'clock in the morning, a lot of the times they can get that to you by end of day, which is really cool. If we were to do that at O'Reilly for our professional shops, we would be out of business, right? So our expectation and what our average is by the time we get an order to our back counter, we have that at the shop's door within 15 to 20 minutes. That's our job. Yeah. And so that takes a lot, right? I mean, that's pretty impressive. You got to have inventory, you got to have DCs for that, you got to have routes that run effectively and efficiently. And there's so much that goes into it. And we just have to provide that customer service to them. And again, so when we're building these applications or these things, we have to always keep that in mind. Is it effective? Is it efficient? Are we doing the right thing for our customers so they want to use that, right? And so when you think of a professional sale, again, there's multiple ways they can buy, right? They can very easily pick up the phone. They can call that person. So we have actually in the back of our stores, you guys, as we walk in the front door, we're really never going to see them. Sometimes you might see them lingering around, but we have a dedicated person in the back of our stores that is solely responsible for these professional sales. So they're just back there answering the phone. They're taking those orders, right? Of course, those pro customers can walk in and order right there if they wanted to. But we also have 3 other ways on top of that they can order, and that's really where, again, where I specialize, or where my job comes into play, are those electronic sales. So our first and our biggest channel is our website, and that website is O'ReillyPro.com. This is our largest channel for our professional customers to go and visit. It produces the most. We have the most users, the most visits. It's our biggest way out of all of these to do it. In order to even have access to it, you have to have an account through O'Reilly. You have to log in. You have to have a password. It's all set up, and it's catered to that specific shop. So they can get in there and they can order. We also have what we call a shop management system and our catalogs, which is our second bullet here. This is a little confusing. I'm not going to dive into it a ton, but the way that I would paint this picture is, think of those really large shops, those Rick's Automotives and those other shops we see. They have to have software or some sort of system that helps them run their shop, right? Think about all the appointments that they're going to get in, all the calls that they have, kind of a customer relationship manager, shop management system all built into one. We actually link our parts and our catalogs into those shop management systems so that they can go in and they can see our parts through those different types of ways to order. So think of it that way. It's kind of a different piece. They typically wouldn't go to O'Reilly Pro. They're just going to live and breathe inside of those shop management systems because that's where all their information is. And then our newest and our latest is the mobile app. And this is what Ben is going to kind of lead into here. And I'm going to kind of finish this off and talk a little bit about the mobile app and why we went that route. Because, as us in this room, you might look at that and wonder, well, why? Because I'll be honest with you guys, we don't have a retail or a front door app, right? It's unfortunate. We all want one. It's on our roadmap. It's something that we really want. But at one point, we had to make a decision on which path do we go. Do we do the professional or do we do the retail? And I think, honestly, it made the most sense, and you guys all jump in on this if you want to add anything to it. But, our website, our O'ReillyPro.com, it was already solid. There was not a lot of changes really technically happened. We're always making changes to it, right? But there wasn't anything major there. It was on a solid foundation. We had high users. We had high volume. And it just felt like a natural springboard for us to just jump right into that, right? To build off of what we already had, we knew it was successful, and we knew that what we could build off of would long-term be great for us. And I'm sure, Ben, that you guys, in a way, it's almost like a trial, right? Where you're building on a foundation that's there, you can trust it, right? Whereas maybe the other way, there's still some changes and some things that we need to make on that website. And that would kind of, contradict a little bit, So, and that's kind of what leads us into alignment. We knew that using O'Reilly Pro would help us stay aligned, not making any major changes to what we were doing, and again, just building on that website success. And then we saw a lot of opportunity here, right? So, when you think about a mobile app for a professional shop, you kind of think about the customers that don't have internet, right? I don't know how, you guys probably don't pay attention as much as we do, but if you go out in town, especially bigger markets, you'll see these little one garage shops all over the place. You can go into them and you can talk to hardworking people. They're just in there making a living fixing vehicles. A lot of them don't have internet. A lot of them don't have Wi-Fi. Computers are sometimes next to none. You can't hardly find them in these shops. And so we had a ton of opportunity, and those customers are buying from us a little bit, but you got to think there's also a communication barrier there. I got to pick up the phone and make a call every single time I want to make a part, right? So if we miscommunicate, maybe that guy in the back is trying to answer 3 phones. He's got parts coming through on this printer that he's got to pick. He's trying to listen. Things happen. Things get messed up. And so we had a lot of opportunity, we felt like, there to really gain some new customers, some new ground on those customers that maybe weren't buying from us, or we could transition those sales into electronic sales and make us more effective and more efficient. And again, the last thing there is our competition. They're on both sides already, so they have retail and pro. But we just wanted to get in there and kind of give the competition a run for their money on this mobile app. So really, that's kind of it for me. I wanted to, hopefully that painted a clear picture on who we are as a company, and then as we narrowed that down to our professional side and how we run and do things, and then that kind of leads us into the app and how we built it. And Ben's going to take over here and kind of walk you through that. So.
Captured requirements, coders wrote some code, tossed the shit out into the atmosphere, you know. I want to kind of pick up on what Andrew was saying about opportunity, right? Like, if you role play, if you think about professional customer, shops, mechanics, right? That's how most of us are going to think about that. Those big shops, they've got systems in place. We've all stood at that counter and watched the service writer at the counter, like, click clack. Well, I can get your part here, you know. By end of day, you can keep your car overnight, you can leave your keys with us, do you want to drop it off in the morning, yada, yada. I'm sure we've all experienced that. Another piece to the puzzle, just to think about, is O'Reilly has a whole nationwide network of, we call them TSMs, Territory Sales Managers, but as many stores as there are, and as many store managers and kind of, brick and mortar locations as there are, we also have this really robust sales network that kind of reports up to Andrew and his team, and they're who they support. And, if you're a salesperson out in the field, right, you're knocking on the doors of those big shops. That's your job, right? You're talking to them. You're selling them, you're telling them, hey, O'Reilly's got the best distribution network and we can get you your part in 15 minutes or less guaranteed. But these, Andrew did a great job of painting the picture. The dirt floor shops, the ma and pa mechanics, the guy up your road that has a little hobby shop that fixes his neighbor's cars. Those folks are eligible to be professionals in our eyes. And so what this app does, more than anything else, is it focuses on those people, gives them a lighter weight, easier to access method of digitizing that process for them, so that, if they choose to not pick up the phone and call and try to do the whole, rigmarole of reciting the vehicle and the part number, they can really just do all of that with the app. And we'll get into some of that, and we'll have time. I'll show you guys a little bit of the app as we go. So we didn't just get requirements and tell, a room of coders to build an app and then launch it. This project was a lot more than that. It started 2 years ago. About 2 years ago exactly. And going back to the introduction, it started before Scott Ross was here. It started before Vasant was here. Dwayne was here. But it started about 2 years ago, mid-year, with an emergency. Hey, we've gone through our year-long planning. We do, all the big corporate planning for the fiscal year and everything. And, I'm sure everybody can appreciate this, but usually about halfway through the year, you throw that out the door and you start over and you do something different. Well, about 2 years ago this summer, the company decided it was time to build a B2B app. So I got moved over to be a part of that. I was working, this guy over here, this Not you. Not that guy. The spectacled bald man over here. Warren Scott. I was working for him at the time, and we were mobile teams, you know. And so we, this happened, it got approved, and we were told, hey, you have a year to build us a mobile app. Go. Go. And so some of the first things we did, you know, one, we built a development team. We built a pod, a scrum team. And I should say, a lot of what I go through in the next couple slides, it's going to be a mixed bag of agile development processes and good product management, and teamwork, and just a lot of rolling up your sleeves and working closely shoulder to shoulder with people to get something, frankly, a little ambitious and maybe even a little impossible done in a really well orchestrated way. So we built a team, and we seeded that team with some of our best and brightest. We borrowed them from other teams with other obligations and projects. And then we supplemented that with new hires and contract employees. What? Hey. Amen. This is Trevor. He's a partner that we've had in the past from Capstone. And so we built a team, and we knew the only way we were going to be successful was to have a strong team that was empowered and autonomous and understood the goal beyond any trivial requirements or specifications or details. So one of the very first things we did as a team, and I've got it on here just in plain text, is we drafted and we created what we call a definition of done. And this is a buzzword. I'm sure a lot of the software people in the room have heard of a definition of done. But this is literally a contract amongst the development team, not between Andrew and the development team, not between anybody else in the development team, but part of the development team, where we're going to state in plain English what our expectations are to literally move a ticket to the done column of a Jira board. It's not enough to just checkmark everything. There are unwritten things. There are unstated requirements, unstated technical requirements that we have to satisfy, or that we want to satisfy, as a lot of this speaks to. And I'm not going to read off all of this, but non-functional requirements was a huge one. In software, we struggle with this kind of stuff, right? It's easy to write what it's supposed to do, but we often forget to put pen to paper on ensuring that we have observability and good error handling and logging and outputs that let us investigate when issues inevitably happen, right? A couple of things I'm super proud of my team for. We chose to support accessibility in our app from day one. We chose to support light mode and dark mode in our app from day one, and that's like, nobody asked for that. Nobody even thought to ask for that. And it was a challenge. I don't know who's like designing. I mean, you basically have two different designs whenever you do that. But the development team literally wanted to do that. And I was like, I'm not going to stand in your way. I think it's beautiful. And if we're going to do it, we have to do it. And they did. And I'll try to show you guys some of that. And the other is Spanish language support. So 2 years ago, we had a rumbling notion that the company was going to start supporting Spanish language in our systems, but it hadn't officially happened. Months after we wrote this document, it did officially happen, so it kind of went from something we were trying to do good at, to something we actually was expected us to do. But the team thought this was important. They knew that even without international growth, in many of our markets, in the auto parts space, people speak Spanish. And so we worked really hard to set up our app from the beginning, not just to support regional dialects of Spanish, but also any language that we might want to support in the future. Beyond that, most of this is, making sure acceptance criteria is satisfied, things are tested, things are UAT, blah, 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 kind of normal stuff. The team themselves, I don't think anybody's in the room. Most of us are remote. I'm double checking. Yeah, nobody's here, but there's 6 developers, 3 Android developers, 3 iOS developers, more of that on the next slide. A couple of QA folks that work with us, and then a couple of really strong product people that are building out backlogs and acceptance criteria and so forth. So you might be picking up, the project was run in a deeply agile way, right? And not superficial. Like, we all know this at this point in life, right? Like there's scrums and sprints, and then there's team empowerment, and there's team buy-in, and there's team understanding of where we're heading, so that you really put your team at the forefront of designing and executing building software. We did that, or we tried our damnedest to do that. The team, we did all the stuff, and we listened to them, and we worked through the problems. One of the biggest successes of our project, and I should say, across the landscape of O'Reilly, there's a lot of agile development teams with varying degrees of how they do it and what's important. But one of I think the biggest successes, and I mean even with you guys, that we brought to the table is, man, we leaned in hard on our sprint reviews, and we got the right people there, and we did the right kind of software demos as we went, to where we were getting real feedback, both in the meeting and immediately after the meeting, and it created, and it's why Andrew and I are up here together today, it created a camaraderie where it wasn't 2 sides of the business working together to do something, but it was 2 sides of the business really collaborating and inspecting one another, and frankly arguing and debating and sometimes screaming at one another about. We still do that. That's healthy. That's just a different angle. That's a different lens, a different way to look at teamwork. But super proud, because part of the sprint reviews is we're talking about velocity and slowdowns and speed ups and course corrections. Our plan wasn't perfect. It evolved. It changed over time. But we were all in it together, and instead of peppering our lives with hundreds of meetings for leaders to course correct, it all kind of happened as part of a natural ceremony where that should happen. And it worked really well. Yeah, that's it. You guys, everybody knows the basics of Agile, right? Okay, cool. Technology-wise, and I'll pause here if there's any questions from anybody. So the app itself is native. So what that means is effectively we have 2 code repositories, one for an Apple iOS application and one for an Android Kotlin application. Tech-wise, we were at kind of an interesting place in history of these platforms, because whenever we started, we were able to jump on to some of the latest and greatest frameworks and languages. So Swift has been around for a while, but just in the last few years, Swift UI has kind of supplanted Zibs and like the previous Swift UI framework, and it's wonderful. And we were able to just, really just as a happenstance of when we started this project and when the technology was kind of baked enough, we were able to jump on some of this. On the Kotlin side, similarly, so we wrote the Android apps in Kotlin, not Java, which is kind of a natural evolution in the Android app space. And we were also able to jump on Compose, which is frankly similar to Swift UI. Basically, it moves the UI layer of Android development from XML, which is makes my eye twitch a little bit, to codified UIs, which really is the same thing that Swift UI does. It moves it from having to support like screens, like zip files, storyboards, to encode UI, which is just more elegant, and you fight less with dependencies and layers and everything. Couple of other things, from the very beginning, we integrated pretty tightly with a whole host of Firebase services, analytics, Crashlytics, monitoring, remote configuration, and then also Dynatrace, which is our in-house kind of not in-house, like it's a whole thing, but it's what O'Reilly uses for our general observability of our applications. I know this is largely, any questions about the tech or anything? I can go deeper in this, but cool. Just do it. So I hinted at this earlier, 2 years ago, we want to build a mobile app, get to work. There were no plans. There were no plans. We knew we wanted it. I think we probably knew the shape and the general goal. We want a mobile app so pros can buy parts from it. But with the 1-year timeline and the need to get started, it was a little daunting. And early on, I remember very clearly some of those early conversations, and Andrew, you were a little bit around, but your predecessor was there a little bit more. We had some negotiations, in my mind, what we needed was a roadmap. We needed to know what features are we going to support. On the surface, everything that the website supports. The website's pretty big. It's been around for 2013? Yeah. It's been around since 2013. New features every quarter, at least, through all that time. So it's like, well, we're not going to be able to do all of that. Sorry. So, we did what you do. We laid out, we captured what are the features, and we negotiated over what do we really need to satisfy these mom, pod, dirt floor mechanics, right? They don't need much. They need to be able to very quickly, put a vehicle in and look up a part. So pretty early on, we actually got pretty strong consensus on what kind of the minimum valuable product would be. And once we had that, we were off to the races. Because it was a small fraction of what the website does. There was a lot of complexity in there, but it was a small fraction. And so then it was something that we could wrap our arms around and look at seriously and start having conversations about. That happened. That wasn't a discovery phase. That wasn't months of writing and documentation. That was weeks of sitting in the room together on whiteboards, on spreadsheets, and just bickering about whether or not it's actually important or is actually going to change is going to impact the sales dollars. But it went well. Like it was a testament that if you get the right people in the right room and you're critical and you've got your eye on a prize, like you can make decisions pretty quick. And it was super, super successful. And the negotiation didn't stop there. You guys know how it is. You get going and you get something done. It's like, well, we could tack this on there. And it's like, no, we can't. Or maybe sometimes, yes, maybe we should. And that happened. And it happened both ways. And because we were working off of a backlog, and because we were working off of priorities, and because we knew where we needed to get to, we were able to negotiate most of that pretty effectively. Just do it. You guys remember that from a few years ago, right? Or probably like 15 years ago, never mind. So a little bit more on like the practicalities of how we were able to negotiate an ongoing project without, a super rigid understanding of it. And this is kind of some of the product management type stuff that I hinted at earlier. First of all, we embraced, and it is so important to embrace that concept of constant iteration. And with that, the only way you can do it is to ensure that you always leave your software in a position of working, right? So when we iterate and we build something that doesn't work, and then the next sprint we need to go to something else, then we're left with something that doesn't work as we work on something new. And we just can't do that. So we established at a team some pretty hardcore rules. Like in the worst case, if we wired up a button that didn't do anything, we sent the user to a coming soon type page, and it had literally a goofy image on it to kind of inspire that we should finish this. And we did in most cases, but leaving broken software in your wake instead of at least software that cycles through, that does something, is how we were able to, in many cases, pivot to something completely different and get to working on it because it became important. Have you guys seen the how to build stuff? Has anybody not seen this little diagram I've got up here? Okay, I love this. And this is the point, right? If we were to think in a traditional lens of building software, right? It's, I like to equate it to a blueprint. I like to equate it to construction, right? We build a foundation, we put up some framework, we put some trusses and a roof on, then we do an exterior, then we do some finish work, yada yada, house is done. That doesn't work super well in software. Or that's my opinion. And the reason for that is that software is intended to be used, right? And there's an element of user experience that you either resist and fight and deal with, change management, or you just embrace. And so the diagram up here is trying to illustrate that. In the top, it's saying build the foundations, put the axles on, chassis, shell of a car, finished car. And you can see in the user, like the user's pissed off, they can't drive it, right? They can't drive the car until it's all the way done. In the bottom one, and thinking more, rework sometimes is okay. If it ensures demonstrability, if it ensures that you can get feedback, if it ensures that people can see it and use it and experience it. So in the bottom one, here's a skateboard, and probably pisses them off. But then a scooter, maybe they see, oh, I can steer this thing now. That's kind of cool. Bicycle, okay. Motorcycle. And then the last one is super cool because the outcome, right, the end result is through that voyage of going through the motorcycle, maybe the user really liked that feeling of wind in their hair cruising down. And so it was realized through the process, let's build a convertible and not the car with a hardtop that we were originally imagining. And that's all very philosophical, and I know that, but it's how you have to think as a development team and keeping software shippable and keeping honest by demoing continually so that you can delight your users and not just execute on a BRD or a requirement or whatever. Oh, the last thing, and this is critically important and something I'm bragging about my team. Obviously, that's what this is actually about. Have you guys heard of the concept of tracer bullets? Has anybody not heard of tracer bullets in software development? Okay, so you may know it's kind of an ugly militaristic term. Tracer bullets in the real world are these bullets with like a lighting element on the tip to where, like literal bullet, you shoot it out over the horizon and you can see the arc of the bullet. So when applied to software development, the idea here is as early in the project as you can, race to the finish line. So for us, the finish line was submitting an order with a vehicle and with parts that didn't crash anything, you know, submitted to our systems. So we started the project in earnest, I think last August 2 years ago. So we were talking about it this time 2 years ago, like code started getting written in August of 2 years ago. The following January, we went to our leadership conference, which is our big yearly, bring all the store managers in, do demos, and hoorah, what's coming, blah, blah, blah. And we were able to demo a mobile app where you could look up a vehicle, you could look up a part, and you could submit an order. There were sacrifices to doing that. You couldn't look up every way that we wanted to. We chose single paths. There's a lot of, and I'll show this to you guys. There's a lot of variability in how we do all those things. We chose a single one because we knew that our biggest risk and our biggest failure point would be if we built a thing that doesn't work. That sounds silly, but like, and the only way we could prove conceptually and using the services that were powering this thing and everything that goes into building technology was to get there as fast as we can. So when I say tracer bullets, it's shooting that bullet out over and through your app or your project so that you get to the end state as soon as humanly possible. Because then you know with a lot more clarity whether you're going to have problems. Shoo! So, how do we launch it? This is boring. Obviously, like, launching something in a big organization, there's a lot of alignment that has to happen between stakeholders, marketing teams, technology teams. But probably most importantly, and where I'm going from here, is ensuring that we don't have any surprises, right? I've bragged up until now, like Firebase, Dynatrace, like we put a lot of the non-functional emphasis into this build. It wasn't just building buttons and doing camera stuff. So from the very first day we launched, from the very first day we went to beta, we started sending out weekly reports to the business, to anybody that wanted to be informed about the success of the app. And it included things like how many users, how many downloads, the versions, the crashes, really everything we could be radically transparent about. And you know, there's two reasons to do this. One, to be a good citizen and a good IT professional. And secondly, and candidly, to keep everybody off your back. Because if you're being transparent and if you're telling them what's going on, and if you own the narrative, then people feel like you got it under control. And that's what we did. So starting very early on, like this wasn't, us looking at the reports. This was us publicizing the reports and telling everybody what's going on. These are just some screenshots from Dynatrace showing like just stuff, crash rates and app decks, and that bottom one, that cool rainbow, is since day one, all the versions. So we've released software every 4 weeks, so you can kind of see this cool adoption timeline over the last 7-8 months of how that's looked. And then also through Firebase and basically GA4, we have just crazy insight into how users are using the software. So that pie chart on the left is showing all the different ways you can look up a vehicle. Pretty well dispersed. On the right it kind of looks like a crazy man's chart. I understand that, but it's all the different ways you can search for a part. So already having captured and weekly monitoring this data, we know we're not satisfied with the speed that it takes for any of those ways that vehicles are looked up. They all seem slow. And we're like, how do we, time is money. How do we make that faster? So we've got some pretty cool ideas of how we're going to make that a lot faster. And then we're going to test it, and we're going to see, are our cool ideas actually faster than any of those? And then same with the search methods. We've been adding additional functionality, and we measure it, and sometimes it lives up to the mark. Sometimes it exceeds expectations, and sometimes it doesn't live up to the mark. I think with all this, it's not to deep dive into the analytics, but it's to show and demonstrate how important observability for any piece of technology is, and how meaningful it can be from a product and an engineering point to be able to share that with people and use that in the future to negotiate. So I'm going to wrap here. No surprises. Last year at our leadership conference again, so last year we were able to demo something that had been launched, and we talked about it. And this is Scott Ross, CIO, that I introduced or talked about, thanked at the beginning of the meeting. And he got up in front of over 8,000 people, like our entire store manager network, TSM network, corporate folk. And he said unabashedly in front of the group that that this project is not an exception. It's the new expectation. And so what we did here, it was super scrappy. And it could be because it was small and contained and built on relationships, but from his point of view, and I think from Vasant's point of view too, it's really where we're headed, and coupled with the modernization work we're doing, the organizational changes we're doing with product management and better oversight, it is the new standard. So we're out of time. We are out of time. And I want to respect that. I can throw the app up here, and if anybody wants to hang around or even come up closer to the screens, I can show you guys kind of some of the highlights of the app. But I'll pause and say thank you, and let anybody that needs to get off to their day job go.
Yeah, we have the room. It's not like the room's disappearing. We have the room until 2 o'clock, but do want to be respectful. If you guys got to get back, go ahead, get back. But if you want to stick around for a demo or Q&A with these guys, please do. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you all very soon. Appreciate everyone. Great job, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, man. So I forgot a license plate. We have a license plate scanning feature. And But I know how OCR works, so I can just fake it.
I can just fake it. I am your father.
Yeah.
It's a great plate.
Yeah.
Whew.
I'm hoping nobody wants to actually see a demo.
You never know.
You never know.
I guess I should hit end on the stream.
Oh yeah. Hi. Mhm. Okay.
Very same kind of thing. And
Like company culture, like
all of it except